going on, Pixar fans? Welcome to another Pixar Theory. My name is John Solo. Thank you so much for stopping by. I would say it's fair to assume that the majority of people watching this video are familiar with the Pixar Theory. For those of you who aren't, it's an extensive theory by critic and conspirer John Negroni that claims that all of the Pixar films are connected in some way. For example, Riley from Inside Out lives in the same universe as Andy from Toy Story, who lives in the same universe as Dory and Marlin from Finding Nemo, and so on. I only bring the theory up because the Pixar movies being connected while being awesome has some pretty profound effects that I haven't heard many people discuss. For example, if Inside Out is indeed connected to Toy Story, then that means that Andy also has an emotion center inside of him, as does Sid, Molly, and Mrs. Davis. If The Incredibles is connected to A Bug's Life, then this scene is a little more messed up than we thought. We could spend all day doing this, but there is one specific connection I wanted to talk about that I haven't heard anyone mention before. If Andy Davis's toys are alive, shouldn't Boo's be too? Is that not a mind-blowing thought? The best part is there is some actual evidence of this theory being true. Let's start from the beginning. Like the beginning of the movie. For those who don't remember, this is the first scene in the movie, and it's a training simulation for a monster named Mr. Bile. We're shown precisely how not to scare a child through Bile's series of mistakes and learn what scares are and aren't supposed to do. There's something about it though that has always bugged some of the more attentive audience members, and that is a series of continuity errors regarding the placement of toys around the child's room. In the first shot of the scene, we see where everything is located. There's a soccer ball under the bed, a toy train and its tracks are near the foot of the bed, and one of the books near the window hangs over the edge. And then as events transpire, everything just sort of moves around. The soccer ball is at the side of the bed and then eventually shows up at the foot of the bed where the train tracks have totally disappeared. The skateboard on the ground moves back a couple of feet and a pile of jacks shows up out of nowhere for Mr. Bile to fall on. So there's a lot for us to question. Why does the soccer ball move on its own? How about the skateboard? Where does the train disappear to? How did the jacks appear out of nowhere? To those people getting ready to comment, "The animators just made a mistake. This video's stupid and pointless," I want you to just wait a minute and hear me out. I realize that mistakes like the ones we're talking about happen all of the time in movies and television, and even Pixar isn't perfect. That being said, there are a few specific reasons why these errors in particular are being discussed. They're pretty noticeable as far as continuity errors go. There's a whole bunch of them grouped together, which is also uncommon, and this is the very first scene of the movie. I just find it hard to believe that a studio like Pixar would let all of these mistakes slide in the opening scene of their big release for that year. So what if these mistakes weren't mistakes at all? That's where today's theory comes into play. We're claiming that the toys moving around the simulation wasn't the result of some animators making a goof, but their way of showing us that self-aware toys do exist outside of Toy Story. Skeptical? Let me explain. Realistically, if Monsters Incorporated wanted to make sure their simulations were as useful as possible, then they would probably use them to make sure that their scares were prepared for absolutely anything and everything. If toys are able to come alive and possibly protect their sleeping owner from an invader, it makes perfect sense for these simulations to include a variable like this. Taking another look at the scene, you'll notice that after Mr. Bile gets scared, he doesn't actually do anything wrong. Granted, he left the door open in the beginning and he got scared, but he probably would have gotten out of there just fine if it weren't for the toys getting in his way. Because of this, I find it hard to believe that the toys weren't a part of the simulation. You're gonna tell me that he failed the test because of something he wasn't even being tested on? That's like failing a history test because you don't know calculus. It doesn't make sense and it's not fair. Also, looking at the simulation from a testing standpoint, what is supposed to be the challenge here? It's a simple room with a simple layout. Remember that all scares have to attend college to get the job, so if anything, that's when a basic test like this would take place. The only aspect that stands out about the test at all is the weird behavior of the toys in the room. Therefore, we could assume that part of the simulation is for the toys to move around the room just like they would in real life. Whether it's just getting a better angle to make sure that their owner is okay, or setting up a trap to foil the monster's scaring attempt. And before you say that setting traps is too complex for toys, you've got to think about the complexity of Woody's escape plan for Sid's house and the very elaborate plan the rest of the toys had to escape Sunnyside Daycare. And no doubt, there's a few of you wondering now that if toys really can move around around and they are willing to protect their owner, then how can the scaring business be so successful? And what about Boo? She was clearly terrified of Randall and her toys didn't do anything to protect her. Remember that Sid's toys were tortured for a very long time before they finally reached their breaking point and fought back. And at Sunnyside, it isn't just Andy's toys being abused, but they're the only ones that do anything about it. There are literally hundreds of toys shown throughout the Toy Story series, and all of them have their own unique personalities. You really can't expect for every single one of them to be brave enough or smart enough to take on these monsters, but there is the possibility that it happens often enough that Monsters Inc. wants to prepare their scares for the scenario. Thinking about it now, maybe toys are the reason why this guy always comes back with clothes on him. In the end, I can't say for certain whether this theory is correct or not, but I'm going to choose to believe it. If Andy's toys are alive, then Boo's must be too. Thank you guys so much for watching today's Pixar theory. Make sure you like, comment, share, and if you're new around here, subscribe for weekly videos about Disney and Pixar.